Timber Talks is brought to you by Wood Solutions. Stay up to date with the latest in timber, the building material that is strong, safe and sustainable. Here is your host, Adam Jones.
Adam Strong is Managing Director at Strongbuild, which is a Sydney-based company specialising in streamlined building systems and sustainable resources with a focus on the design and delivery of multi-residential, aged care and retirement living projects. Now, one of the advantages of timber is its ability to enable prefabrication of a building to simultaneously improve quality, price and program for a project. So in this interview with Adam, we discuss how stepping back in the supply chain has given Strongbuild the control to produce higher quality offsite and enable higher productivity on-site and push innovation. And why early contractor involvement is key to unlocking all of the productivity benefits for timber construction, and why design, detailing and logistics are fundamentals for a successful prefabricated project. It was a pleasure and honour getting the chance to speak to Adam Strong from Strongbuild. I hope you guys enjoy listening as much as I did speaking to him, and without any further ado, here is Adam Strong.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey for us. Strongbuild started down the south coast, 2 hours south of Sydney in Berry. So my brother Jamie and Chris Francis started the business up. They relocated down there from Sydney. They're doing a lot of high-end housing up on the northern beaches, and it was all about a lifestyle change, getting down the south coast. And they just started to pick up some beautiful homes down there, and there was some real demand for what they were doing, what they could produce. So Strongbuild started pretty humble beginnings back then in 2000, and developed a really strong brand around building quality and high-end homes, and we still do. It's probably 20% of our turnover still. We do a lot of high-end housing down the south coast in the Southern Highlands, around Kangaroo Valley and Berry and the surrounds. We sort of started to branch off into some multi-residential projects, doing a retirement village in Berry, and then one down at St George's Basin, another multi-residential retirement village, where the guys really started to leverage off its trade base and experience down there into those style of projects. And they got their own challenges being able to manage multi-residential projects, townhouse projects, retirement tightly into a high quality and efficiently is a real challenge for builders, and we developed a lot of experience. We really started to. I think we've always had a focus, a very heavy focus on how we can deliver our projects better, what we can put in place to produce more of it at a better quality and efficiently. And that probably started. We really invested heavily into design and BIM modelling. So we BIM model, 80 to 90% of our projects internally. We've got a team down the south coast, very experienced in ArchiCAD, and we do extremely detailed BIM models, and started doing that sort of 10 years ago for the high-end housing to design out a lot of the negative variables on projects, get client engagement, and to be able to visualise, and we can make changes in design rather than on site. And so we sort of grew that team and that expertise, and just looked to try to leverage off a lot of that information, and decided to start to invest in off-site manufacturing, and looked at different ways that we could do that. So around 2012, we went to Europe, and we saw how the Europeans and Germans in particular were panelising projects, and that seemed to be the best fit for us at the time, that we could really convert most projects that we do. We do a diverse style of project, whether it's, I mentioned before, high-end homes, retirement OLUs, medium-rise residential projects, aged care, and panelisation gave us the most flexibility to convert most projects. And I guess we've been able to develop a lot of systems around all those style of projects and different sectors we work in, and be able to produce panels that suit a lot of those, whether they're lightweight panels, but they're mass timber. And I guess we started to develop and establish our facility here in the Norwest Business Park, our manufacturing facility, 2 years ago, and now producing panels and structural solutions for a lot of our projects since.
It's a really interesting origin story, Adam. And so for you guys, what was the key in changing your business framework, going from, say, the mid-size quality builder, and you stepped one step back to become part of the supply chain as prefabricator. So what was some of the reasons you guys made that step?
Really, it was all around control. So we saw the need as we were growing and our services were in demand, but to do that sustainably and still produce a quality product and be in control of it, we had to look at better ways of delivering the product, better ways of controlling the delivery of that product. And as I mentioned, that starts at design all the way through to being able to take some of the riskiest and most critical components of the project, really getting the structure, cladding, and facade and these projects produced to a higher quality offsite, enabling us to install quickly on site. We just really saw that having to take out these elements into a factory and control it was very important for our future around control. And we didn't have any other partners or suppliers that we saw in our market that could do it for us. So we just had no other option really to start to develop and invest in that expertise ourselves.
So back then, when you made that leap, do you think it was a risky choice, or do you think it might have been just as risky or more risky for inaction and not doing anything?
Yeah, definitely a bit of both. Like we've back then, if I do think back at our driver, we definitely, and I think anyone who sets off in the business and looks to do things like this, you're not aware of what it fully takes to get a venture like that set up. So there's a little bit of naivety, but we still knew that it was going to be a challenge, but it was worth the investment because we saw some really declining issues within the industry around declining skilled labour shortages, control of that on our projects. And then if we didn't look to do something about it, the next 15 years were just going to become harder and harder for us to manage and control projects. So we had to look at ways where we could essentially look to future-proof our business, and we saw it as the only or one of the only real viable options for us to take control.
Mm. So when you've got some of this control and you have a bit more vertical integration, does this allow for a lot more innovation from Strongbuild on the projects you're working on?
100%, yeah, and I'm surprised actually. I think once you start off on the journey, and we were definitely focused on more our low-rise projects at the time when we were investing in the manufacturing, so being able to panelise townhouses and retirement projects, which we do well, but it really started to lend our ability to develop solutions for other style of projects. To be able to go taller, CLT was obviously a great product that we could use. We could bring in the factory, process and add value to be able to take our structural systems taller. And then we continue really to every project's different, and it's got its different risks that we need to try to address, and we're always looking at different structural solutions, and that might be, we're not completely wed to mass timber or just lightweight panels. It'll be a combination of both for certain projects. So it's the fact that we've got a lot of different solutions that we can lean on. Every time we have a new project come by, we're able to really work towards the ideal outcome, the best solution for that project.
We've mentioned prefabrication a few times and about your factory. So I was lucky enough to go down a couple of months ago, and it's a big 8,000 metres squared offsite factory. I think that's the number, and there's it's incredible the amount of automation that's going on there. Can you just tell us a little bit about it and what products you can make from the factory?
Yeah, sure. I say, look, yeah, you're right. 8,000 square metres. We're broken into 5 main zones. So we do have the first zone is a small pod zone where we've allowed an area that we can take the panels or any other elements like joinery that we manufacture in our facility and look to manufacture pre-finished, volumetric pods. So we've produced some bathroom pods for some of our smaller projects, 60, 70 townhouses and under. But we do partner We do partner mass producers of pods like Sync for our larger projects because our capacity is quite small. But it's still an important zone where we can still produce. We've got a project coming up where we're going to be producing some really beautiful high-end quality cabins for a hotel project up in the Hunter Valley. Or we've got a zone where we can produce some bespoke volumetric modules like that. So next to that is we've got our wall line. So we produce wall panels and pre-finish them and take them to sites. We do timber lightweight wall frames. We insulate them, line them with plasterboard. If it's an external wall, we can batten and clad those walls, pre-install windows and doors. And that is a very big part of our facility. We can also bring in pre-processed mass timber CLT panels into that line and pre-finish those panels as well. Again, we pre-install windows and doors and clad them. And then the third zone, we manufacture floor cassettes. So it's a fairly highly automated floor cassette line where it'll automatically set the cassette out and place joists, and those joists, we can roll our own posi or timber truss joists. We roll and manufacture those, or we buy in engineered lightweight joists or LVL or glulam, depending upon the project. And we can produce floor cassettes up to 12.5 metres long and 3.6 metres wide, and that they really suit our townhouse projects quite well. We've done a 2-storey apartment project for Frasers in Sydney that the cassettes added huge value to. Then we move around to the fourth zone, which is we've got a CNC processing centre, the Hundegger robot drive that can process mass timber from up to 13 metres long, 1250 wide and 300 deep. So we process the CLT and glulam for the majority of our projects in-house. We're able to hold some stock and we can process and sort of look to de-risk the process rather than be completely leveraged off having to import mass timber from overseas. So we process CLT mass timber there, but we also do a lot of structural joinery, that we call it, for even a lot of our bespoke and high-end homes. Custom timber structures, hand-pitched roofs, verandas, decks, pergolas, a lot of high-end work like that. It's a very detailed processing centre. And after that, we manufacture the majority of the joinery for our projects. A lot of bespoke solid timber joinery, such as staircases, solid timber windows and doors, bespoke joinery, and then a basic carcass joinery area where we'll do kitchens, wardrobes, vanities, things like that.
Mm. So this whole process of design for manufacturing and assembly, it seems to be quite different to what traditional construction and approaches have been. So with this new approach, what things should people be taking on board to work well with this new paradigm in design and construction?
Oh, look, the obvious thing where we can add more value, but really where any builder and particularly any manufacturer can add more value is to be involved in the project from day one. So we've seen a real shift over the last 3-4 years where we do have clients coming to us earlier and earlier in design or planning or even conceptual design and getting our input. And there's really no need to lock us into a project early for us to put input into a project, because really a lot of this advice would help and make any project efficient to suit a lot of different systems. So if we have a client who comes to us quite early, and we have a number of projects right now where we've been really quite lucky enough for a client to come to us with their architect on day one with no concept and ask for some parameters around what would best suit our solutions, and we can add a huge amount more value, and they'll get a better cost outcome, and even program and less waste and a lot of different things. It'll be a much greater outcome for the project. So getting a manufacturer involved very early in design has huge benefits to a project.
One of the projects I'm aware that changed quite a bit early on for you at Strongbuild was Phoenix. So I understand it started off with a full concrete construction, and it ended up going lightweight walls, LVL studs, and CLT floors. Can you just tell us a little bit about this process of why you kept going in that direction, and why you kept on iterating the design?
Yeah. I mean, that project's a really good example of where we take on the challenge of continuing to interrogate a design to come up with the best solution. So that came to us DA approved. And it was designed with concrete in mind. So we still were able to convert it to timber efficiently. And the first step was to go back to the client with a completely load-bearing full CLT solution, and that was priced up, and there was definite cost and time advantages compared to concrete. So as we were engaged then and started down the design process, we really started to look at trying to add more value for this particular client and really interrogate that structure. And we just found that when we looked to, say, replace some of the load-bearing walls, like if we looked at a load-bearing wall that was internal to a unit, say between a bedroom and a living area, that it was slightly more cost-effective to replace that CLT wall with steel columns and a steel beam. And that brought a saving to the project, and still meant that we can get that structure up quite quickly. And then because our wall line in our factory was up and commissioned, and it was operating well, that we thought, look, I mean, how would the concept look if we replaced all load-bearing CLT walls, and even these load-bearing internal CLT walls I just mentioned, with lightweight timber frames, keeping the stair and lift shaft CLT and all the floors and roof CLT, how that would weigh up. And and that was really, we knew that it would be more cost effective, but it was a lot more cost effective than a pure full CLT structure. And we're able to produce those panels in our facility and take them to site closed, so lined with fire-rated plasterboard, braced, insulated. So that solution was a great outcome for the project.
And these lightweight walls, they come from the factory fully finished, ready to go. What kind of productivity were the walls coming to site at? And in general, with the project, what productivity savings might have you achieved compared to, say, traditional construction?
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it's a hard thing to narrow down into the element by itself, because there are a lot of other advantages with a solution like this. And for instance, there are no backpropping to floors. So a lot of the productivity is even gained by the fact that we're able to come right in underneath a floor that's just been dropped out, a CLT floor, and get straight into finishes. Looking at the structure alone, we're about to top out that structure, and we'll get that up in around 14 weeks. So that's a 6-story structure for 140 odd apartments. So that's gone, very quickly. And as part of that, we've been able to drop in bathroom pods. All our load-bearing walls, are lined. They have surfaces within them. They are insulated, ready to be set on site. So a lot of that work's done. A lot of the lifting is done. We're not having to separately handle in a lot of those materials. So the savings on site, once that structure goes up quite quick, to come straight in behind with finishes, your finishes sequences are coming in a lot earlier, and they're going a lot faster as well.
So how does the workflow go from, say, 3D BIM model through the CNC machines, and then onto site? If you could also comment on sequencing and how important that might be for builders to consider as well.
Yeah, well, it's to be honest, it's 90% of the issue, 90% of the challenge is in design and detailing. Designing architecturally, designing that building and having a very accurate model is complicated to get all that detail into the model, but is possible. There are a lot of good architects out there who can do that. What we do is we export the structure out of a BIM model, and this one for Phoenix in particular, we produce that and model that within our ArchiCAD. So we're able to export an extremely detailed structural model out of ArchiCAD into a third-party detailing package, which has really been developed for the timber and panelisation industry. And this software package will panelise all the walls, all the floors. There's a huge amount of information that has to go into it, right down to staple patterns, routings for all fixings and brackets, routing out any penetration for services such as GPO and light switch locations, things like that. So a lot of detail and coordination has to go into those panels. So, that model and exporting the data to machinery, exporting workshop drawings for manufacturer, workshop drawings for packing and loading, workshop drawings for installation, the flow of information out of this model that's required to produce these products, to handle them, to get them to site and get them installed is really 90% of the effort and the challenge. So there's a lot of experience gained by our teams, and we've learned a lot over the last few years in relation to that. But that's from these solutions and offsite manufacturing. That definitely is probably one of the bigger challenges, is to make sure that the details there, it's correct, it's well coordinated, and it flows well to scheduling, to procurement, to manufacturing, even out onto site, onto install.
So when it arrives on site, when it comes down to sequencing, have you ever been caught up where it's not perfectly sequenced on the truck, and some of the impacts on that, something that seems to be simple, quite simple, but I'm sure it's not?
Oh, 100%. So, and I'll give you a really good example. Our first mass timber project, MacArthur Gardens at Campbelltown, we imported those CLT panels from Europe. It was our first large timber project. It was 3,000 cubic metres of timber. So it was 3 towers. One was 6 levels, one was 7, one was 8. So it was a reasonable size project to bite off. So we imported all of that mass timber from Austria, pre-processed. So we were still able to manage the design and detailing, and we issued that to the fabricator to ensure the processing was correct, and it was. But what we thought was necessary was to lean upon a local logistics partner who specialised into that, because we knew how important it was to ensure that they could destuff containers, reorganise into install sequence, pack the trucks correctly, take them in site as we need them, and we had huge challenges with that. I mean, that project would have gone 30% faster if we controlled that process ourselves. At the time, we thought we'd leave it to an experienced logistics business, but we learnt on that project how important it is to control that side of what we do. Our second large CLT project, which is AVO at Norwest. So that's a 9-storey CLT project. It's a 10-storey vertical retirement village, which I think we got completion on that 2 or 3 weeks ago. We imported the CLT blanks. We processed it all here locally, and we managed logistics. For the first few weeks, there was some refinement needed in how we were packing and how trucks were going to site, but the experience was fantastic. And we've just realised now we've put processes into place that it's such an important part of what we do to control ourselves internally and not rely upon external parties to do that.
Mm. What would you tell yourself, say, 5 years ago before you embarked on, say, the Strongbuild's most recent journey? What would you tell yourself back then, or people who's looking to do something similar to what Strongbuild have done?
Oh, good question. I get used to 3-hour nights, sleep at nights. But no, look, I mean, really, just probably more to be prepared for a few of the challenges around. So the 2 key things we discussed: design and detailing, and logistics. So we've developed that via experience. No one can sit with you and explain what you need to do. What we do is quite unique. And we apply what the Europeans do in completely different ways that suit our market, suit our projects. We know our projects. We're a builder. We know our product. We know what solutions required. So we're able to ensure that we can, from a manufacturing point of view, produce something that is of real use to us. But that whole design and detailing process was probably underestimated when we first went into manufacturing, and we got it ironed out now. We're doing it extremely well. But that is probably the the main thing that I would have said, buckle into that a little bit earlier and make sure it's fully ironed out before the first project.
And what's ahead for Strongbuild now? So you've been part of some very high-profile jobs such as MacArthur Gardens, Phoenix, Avio, like you mentioned. What's coming up?
Yeah, look, I mean, it is exciting times to be honest. So I think everyone's going to see a lot more timber projects hit the ground over the next 18 months, 2 years. So we are working on a few more high-profile projects and really nice education and commercial style projects. It'll be visual grade, unprotected CLT structures, glue lamp, column and beam with exposed CLT floors. So some really beautiful projects. But probably what excites us just as much is that we've got a few projects coming up where we're working really hard to be able to produce an extremely affordable product for a particular market. And through design and detail and working with a particular client's architect to be able to produce a residential product at a price that no one will come anywhere near, and that we can produce quite quickly with a lot of control and make it easy and on volume. So we're able to look to standardise what we manufacture more. So I guess today all the projects that are high profile, I mean, they're great, but every single one of those is a pilot project. There's a lot of effort and work goes into them. We're putting a lot of effort and work now to try to work with clients where we can add huge value, where from a program and cost point of view, we'll more than compete, but we're able to not treat each project as a prototype, but look to standardise designs, wall panels, even pre-finished modules. So that's as exciting. They're not going to be the high-profile projects, but it's great to be able to look to develop something that's really efficient, that helps the market, helps with affordability and other things. So it'll be a bit of balance of both into the future.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like if you're already cost competitive or better with the systems, but once you get the benefits of economies of scale in the future with huge volume, then there could be huge benefits.
Yeah, and I think one of the most exciting things out of it, I think we can be cost competitive, we can be efficient, but the quality of the product is amazing. And that's from our beginnings, and we still do a lot of it, as I mentioned, a lot of high-end housing. The quality is of huge importance to our brand, and it always will be. But if we're going to produce a quality an affordable home or say apartment project, that we want to make sure that the quality is still in keeping with our brand. So, and there's that saying out there that there are three key objectives of a project, and that's quality, price, and program. And the industry always talks about it's impossible to have all three. Well, we're really challenged, and we love the challenge, particularly with the project I just spoke about, to try to tick all those three boxes. And the only way you can do that is by utilising technology and offsite manufacturing.
Fantastic. Great. And if people want to find out more about yourself and Strongbuild, where should they go?
Oh, look, we're always quite open for people to reach out and have a chat. We're a transparent business. We want to make sure that the industry continues to move as a whole. We're not a closed shop or a closed book. We're obviously extremely busy, but if someone wants to reach out via LinkedIn or make contact through our office, we're always open, whether it's myself, our design team, our business development team as well, to answer and address anyone's questions or needs.
If you want to use timber on your next projects, there are over 45 free technical guides that can be found on the Wood Solutions website. Technical Guide 37, which focuses on the steps to deliver a mid-rise timber building, is a good start.